I wanted to come by for Power Rankings. Hey, what's up, Mel? Say what's up, Bubba. Yeah, your buddy. See, he's all good. He just wants to see where the Columbus Crew are ranked. You can't blame him. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. We are here for Power Rankings at just about the exact 1 month mile marker of the 2024 MLS season. Things are going fast. We got a lot of data coming through on these teams. We got some slow starts, hot starts, everything else. It's time to relook at my power rankings from preseason and see where all these teams stack up. I gotta look at this sweet Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart stepbrother shirt. Let's go Knicks, bing bong. Anyway, let's get to the power rankings. Quick note here before we get in. I'm gonna use a lot of kind of advanced stats or different analytics. Every stat that I give is per my man Jeff Ruder. So please read him on The Athletic. Everything else, he's brilliant. Follow him on Twitter. He simplifies these things and puts them, packages them in very bite-sized, easy consume information and easy to understand for some dopes like me who just kind of sometimes want to talk about vibes and games I played on a spreadsheet, mate. But Jeff Ruder makes you smarter when you talk about soccer, so read Jeff. Just like the last times I've done power rankings, this is going to be tiered. I'm trying to find a balance of overreacting, kind of like a power pool, like a power ranking. So yeah, like Orlando and New England aren't bottom two teams, and to start the season they probably would be, but their preseason rankings kind of come into effect and what we think these teams might be, but you'll get it. Let's start it off. First tier, bottom tier. This one's just called Yikes. Number 29, Austin FC, and number 28, San Jose Earthquakes. Let's start with Austin. Yes, they have 3 points. They have 3 draws. They've gotten results in 3 games, but they're just not very good. This is a team in transition. This is a team that is pretty talent deficient. Outside of Sebastian Driussi, Danny Pereira, how many other players on this team are definite starters for other teams in the league? Like, there's not a ton. Brad Stuver, obviously, Zan Kamanic, good John Gallagher. It gets pretty thin pretty quickly for this team. What's been super interesting is they're a completely different team this year. And, like, Josh Wolf is somebody who wants to play with the ball, and even to their detriment last year. That's what sporting director Rodolfo Borrell said that he liked about Josh Wolf. And this season, they're 19th in possession, first in long passes, 27th in shots for, and 29th in shots against. I think that they're lucky to have 3 points to start the season, and I just don't see this team treading upwards. 28 San Jose Earthquakes, 0 points, 0-4 to start the season. They've had 2 home games. Again, this is another team that's talent deficiency. I think that they have a bit more than Austin do, but it's just not been enough. Like, they have a DP spot open. Maybe that changes things, but why would you be optimistic that San Jose are going to pay and really shell out for a big player? We'll see what happens. We'll see if this gets better, but they're special players from last year. Christian Espinoza, Daniel, Carlos Guezo, I guess if you call him a special player. He's good at his position. They haven't been that this year. Jeremy Bobasi hasn't been that. Amal Pellegrino hasn't been that yet. They're 22nd in expected goals per shot, 22nd in attack speed, and 21st in passes per defensive action. It's just a whole lot of bleh, like They deserve to be 0-4 at this moment. Next tier, unpleasant surprises. Number 27, New England Revolution. 26, New York City FC. 25, FC Dallas. These 3 teams have been extremely disappointing. And if you look here at where we had them in the preseason rankings, again, I could just be wrong about these teams, but I feel like it was a pretty general consensus. New England Revolution are down 18 spots. That has to be that's the biggest drop. 0 points. They're tied for the most goals conceded in MLS with 10, and they're last in expected goals against. I'm worried about them, right? Like, this has been a longer problem under Caleb Porter when he was with the Crew. They underperformed. This team still has Carlos Hill. A team with Carlos Hill should be at least an average team in MLS. That's how special he is, and that's how special a number 10 in this league is. And if you have competitive players around him, a solid enough defense, they're going to create enough chances. It just hasn't happened that way. The defense has been a joke so far, right? And look, I empathize, like I said on our last video. CONCACAF Champions Cup hangover is real. It's very difficult. I kind of went back and forth about whether to have them this low, because if they figure things out, this will look stupid and we'll remember, oh man, like, remember that bad start, like I guess Kansas City last year? But I don't know if I see it turning around. It's been pretty soft, and there's just been not a lot of positives. Like, they've played, like, they're still in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, so this might not get any better. I'm worried about this team. I'm not sure how it gets better. 26, New York City FC. They're 9 spots down. They got the first win of the season last weekend against Toronto FC. That's 1 win and 3 losses on the season. The worry is what the same worry was last year. The attack is kind of insipid. They're not living up to the sum of their parts. They're underperforming. Back row hasn't been a difference-making center forward. Santi Rodriguez is their best attacker. Who's their second best attacker? Who's going to be the more consistent player around Santi? Who's going to score more goals? Santi Rodriguez shouldn't be asked to score double-digit goals and lead the team in goals. That has to be Backroar or Mijanovic or Hannes Wolf or Talos Magno or any of these other really talented, expensive attackers that just aren't giving their production. Their XG per shot is 24th in MLS, and I think that tells the story of this team. 25th is FC Dallas, 3 points, 1 win and 3 draws, 0 clean sheets. They've had 3 home games. Their XG per shot is last in MLS. They're 3rd in possession. They're 27th in direct attacks. This team, same as it ever was under Nico Estevez. It's slow. It's ponderous. They struggle to break down set defense. They struggle to turn ball control into game control. And again, this isn't a new problem. I talked about it on Monday, so I'll shut up about it. But until they prove that they're going to be the version that we hope that they can be, that we think they can be, they have to prove that. They don't get the benefit of the doubt anymore. Next tier could go either way. Number 24, Chicago Fire. 23, Colorado Rapids. 22, Sporting Kansas City. 21, Houston Dynamo. Chicago Fire, they got their first win of the season, and it's not replicable. They won 4-3 against CF Montreal in a wind tunnel. They benefited from some questionable refereeing decisions. They benefited from an Angels in the outfield type goal in the 99th minute for Kellen Acosta to win it. Look, 3 points to 3 points. I'm not trying to rain on the parade. I'm just saying I'm not gonna throw them a parade for winning that game. They're still not creative enough. Hugo Kuiper scored his first goal at least, but again, that was kind of off a set piece, and that can work, but there's just not enough here, and the defense hasn't been good enough either. This team, I think they're going to struggle until that they get a better chance creator, because Xherdan Shaqiri just ain't it, as much as I hope it's going to happen. It's just not going to happen. 23, Colorado Rapids. They have 5 points, 1 win, 2 draws, and a loss. Their results have been all over the place. They had a really bad loss to open the season in Portland, a bad draw at home to a very undermanned Nashville team, and then a really good win against Real Salt Lake and a draw against Seattle that they should have won. They looked really good in these last 2 games. So for me, I was pretty bullish on this team coming into the season. I really like what they did in the offseason, but a lot of that was predicated in, I thought this was going to be a competitive as hell team, a transition-based team, one that kind of got out into space, into the attack, who won the ball high. They're 21st in direct attacks in MLS. This is supposed to be a transition-based team, and maybe this is game states, right? You're not going to get many transition opportunities when you're down 4-0 at halftime to Portland. Seattle got a red card, so obviously they went into a shell in their last game. So maybe that's all part of it, but I don't know, man. I thought that this was going to be a different version. I guess that they're still finding their feet. Georgi Mihailovic still is trying to get going. We'll see what happens. Colorado Rapids, 23. Sporting KC, 22. They have 6 points, 1 win, 3 draws, and no losses. This is probably harsh, but the underlying numbers really don't like them. They're bottom tier in shots and expected goals per shots. I'm worried that one injury in central defense or defensive midfield is really going to sink this team and really make it hard. Again, I don't want to knock them for getting points because they are, but I'm just not quite a believer yet. I'm glad to be proven wrong, and I'm an idiot, so I'm probably going to be proven wrong. 21, Houston Dynamo, down 7 spots. Look, they've had so many injuries. That's why they're here. They're still playing good ball. They're still trying to play. They've been in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and they haven't had the wheels fall off like New England has. Imagine if New England had as many injuries and all these excuses they could point to. So, honestly, well done to Houston for that. But I keep coming back to that I'm worried about the talent. And again, if they take one more injury or continued fixture congestion, again, I know that the Champions Cup runs over, it's going to be hard for them. I will say Ibrahim Aliou is legit. That's been a really good signing, a very pleasant surprise throughout the start of the season. But with Hector Herrera out, Sebas Ferreira out, they're still working to bring in another young attacker. Who knows if it'll happen? They spent some of their resources on Latif Blessing. Let's see if he moves the needle. I don't know. They needed more bodies, so they got more bodies. Again, this isn't a knock on how they've been playing. This is more about, do I trust them to keep it up, or is the talent enough here on this team? And unfortunately, looking from the outside, I don't think that it is, and I would rather bank on some of the other teams that are ahead of them. Next tier, pleasant surprises. Number 20, Charlotte FC, 19, DC United, 18, Toronto FC, 17, CF Montreal, and 16, Portland Timbers. All of these teams are plus in from their preseason predictions. My own, we'll start with Charlotte. They've got 4 points, and they've been hard done by refereeing decisions and some finishing issues from Enzo Copetti, so things could even be better. They're still waiting for Liel Abada to debut. That's going to change this team. They need more attacking talent, but they have a good foundation, a really strong competitive desire, everything else that makes a team competitive. Now, if they add the special talent to attack, they still have another DP spot. Let's see what happens with this group, but it's a really good foundation, a really good start. 19, DC United. This team is good. This team is legitimately good. The underlying numbers love them. Christian Benteke is a singular attacking presence. I can see this team continuing to rise. They are first in MLS in shots. They are first in passes per defensive action. They're third in attack speed and second in field tilt. This is a Red Bully pressing team. This is a team that dictates how the game is going to be played, and it's played on their terms. Another team that you could argue about refereeing decisions with the game against Miami. Maybe they're hard done by. This is a team that looked like they were going to get a winner on the road against Portland. So 5 points is kind of the bare minimum for this team. Like, I've been really impressed by DC United and Troy Lezane. Number 18, Toronto FC. They're up 11 spots from their bottom preseason ranking. This has been extraordinarily impressive by John Herdman, the way that he's gotten this team to buy in and be a complete 180 of what they were last year, which was insanely disappointing, and the body language doctor was prescribing all sorts of medications to try to make them better, but nothing could happen. They've already, again, the underlying numbers don't love them right now, but this is still vastly better than what we could have expected. They have two special attackers who are bought in, Lorenzo Insigne and Federico Bernardeschi. That was the issue last year. Their system makes a whole lot more sense to get the most out of those players while having a foundation behind them. Richie Larea has not been very available since they signed him, and he's going to be a key player for this team. So while the underlying numbers don't love them, they have a couple players who can outperform those numbers, plus this is a team that's still kind of being built and still coming together on the fly. If you have two special attackers and a strong defensive foundation, that's a recipe for success in this league. I don't know, like, they're obviously not going to challenge for the Shield, I don't think. But coming into the season, I was thinking that there is no way this team comes close to the playoff line because of how strong the East is and how many problems they had last year. This is a team, this looks like a playoff team right now. And we'll see what happens over the next 30 games. But that's already much, like, even having this discussion is much more than I thought we'd have about Toronto FC this year. So well done. Sticking in Canada, number 17, CF Montreal, everyone's favorite neutral, or, you know, at least one of my favorite neutrals. Again, they were really hard done by the refs this weekend in Chicago. Again, I hate how much I'm talking about referees. I'm usually really, really bored and really have no patience for refereeing discussions because normally I think every team thinks that the referees screw them. Every fan base does. You know, you talk to a Premier League fan, they say their refs are the worst. You talk to an NBA fan, their refs are the worst. NFL, MLB, Serie A, Turkey, whatever. Every league in every sport in the world thinks that they have the worst refs in the world. So I usually don't have much patience for this. But with the replacement refs, it really is a storyline. So anyway, CF Montreal kind of got screwed against Chicago this weekend, and they definitely got screwed by the wind. So again, like, they could have had 3 more points. They're first in MLS in expected goals per shot, and they're 29th in possession, which is a shock to me. Again, probably game states, everything else. I like that they're being pragmatic. I like how the pieces fit and everything they're doing. I'm expecting that possession number to go up. Again, I don't think that this is going to be a replica of Wilfred Nancy's crew. I think it's a little bit lazy by us, and myself included, being like, oh, Laurent Courtois is French. Laurent Courtois came from Columbus Crew with the second team. Like, he has his own ideas, right? And it's working very well. Number 16, Portland Timbers, up 4 spots. Really good start under Phil Neville. And now with a DP forward, Cabecita coming. Hopefully, they're hoping he can debut this weekend. TBD, we'll see. The deal's not even announced at time of recording. This team is going to be dangerous. Can they get defensive additions? They're really, really light at fullback with Bravo out, but we'll see. The attack can be special. So if Diego Chara continues to 2-foot or tactically foul is probably better for them. Diego Chara continues to tactically foul Father Time and doesn't get a yellow card for persistent infringement, they'll be good. Again, this attack is going to be really good. They can even sacrifice a number from the attack to add to the midfield or defense if they feel like they need the extra body, because Cabecita, Evander, Moreno, Anthony, like, these are supposed to be special players, and they are. Like, they could have that luxury if they need extra numbers in defense. Next tier. Slow start, or were we just all wrong? 15 Orlando City, 14 Seattle Sounders, 13 Philadelphia Union, and 12 Nashville SC. Orlando City, they're the biggest disappointment to me next to the New England Revolution start the season, but I think that they're going to be better than New England, and they've shown, like, slow starts in the past under Oscar Pereira and the town here. It just still makes too much sense for me to drop them too far. But man, this has been a shocking start to this season. They're giving up soft goals. I don't know what's going on with Pedro Calese. Like, people had looked at him as one of the best goalkeepers in the league, and I've been saying that too. I've been in arguments with Matt Doyle and some of the extra time guys about this because they don't rate him as highly as I do. He's been bad to start the season. Luis Muriel has not been a difference maker. I was watching against Atlanta, and it's like, hey man, hey DP forward, are you ever going to kind of get in the box? And I know he was playing as like a second striker with Duncan McGuire and trying to float and find this game, but like, center forwards need to get in the box to be more dangerous. So it's been really disappointing for Orlando, and I don't know why it's like this. But they're out of the CONCACAF Champions Cup now. They need results, and they need it ASAP. Number 14, Seattle Sounders, another team that is really struggling outside of the gate, who I thought was probably the safest pick in the Western Conference to be near the top of the table. And hasn't happened that way. Look, they have got a ton of injuries. João Paulo, Stephen Fry, Ymar just got back. All of the above, right? Like, that's all fair. Rusnak just got back. Again, there are a lot of issues. But they've looked really, really bad in this full 4-2 with Raul Ruiz Diaz, Jordan Morris, and now Pedro de la Vega's injured as well. Again, I think that this team is going to be fine, but they're down 9 spots because they're really struggling to start the season. Once these players start to come back, the baseline is going to be good, but I'm worried about the ceiling that I thought that they might have. But again, like, maybe this is too harsh, and we'll look back at being, again, overly critical of a team that's missing 4 or 5 starters to start the season. So we'll see. 13, Philadelphia Union. I don't know what's going on with their defense. This is a team that even when they were exploding in attack, scoring so many goals in 2022, they hung their hat on defense. Like, that is this team's identity. That's what this coaching staff loves, and that's what they built this team around. And they still have elite players at goalkeeper, both center backs, defensive midfield, all that, left back. I don't know what's going on with this team. It feels a little stale. Quinn Sullivan has taken a step forward. Jack McGlynn is continuing to improve. Daniel Gazdag isn't in open play. Mikhail Ura still kind of isn't. Julian Carranza has been injured. It's just been a little bit weird for the Philadelphia Union. Again, this is another team that you give them the benefit of the doubt because of how much success that they've had under this head coach, under this sporting director, under most of this roster. But I'm definitely getting a little bit worried about their start. 12, Nashville SC. They've navigated the beginning of the season with CONCACAF Champions Cup, injuries to Hani Mukhtar, Walker Zimmerman, and Sam Surridge. Not so bad, right? So we don't exactly know what to expect. And going into the season, it was, hey, are they going to attack more? They've still played kind of anti-soccer. And again, that's fine. They're getting points. It is what it is, right? But the questions going into the season, were they going to be able to be better with the ball and do more? We don't know because they haven't been fit. We'll check back in on this over the next month, but I know we've been saying this about Nashville for a couple years now. Next category, staying with the pack. Number 11, Real Salt Lake. Number 10, St. Louis City. And number 9, Vancouver Whitecaps. All these teams are kind of where we thought they were going to be going into the season, and that's a good thing, right? Like, Real Salt Lake, I think that they have another level to them. I'm not going to read out any of their advanced stats because they had the snow game that kind of threw everything off. But again, Chicho Arango has been really, really good to start the season. Andres Gomez had his best game in that snowstorm, which is very interesting. But again, this Real Salt Lake team makes a lot of sense. They've got talent all over the field. I am worried about the Pablo Ruiz injury, but while they struggled a lot without him for the first 4 to 6 weeks last year, they figured it out a little bit towards the end of the season. And Nelson Palacio is a really, really good player to me. Not Pablo Ruiz. It's unfair to expect him to be, but they have cover there. They can't sustain another injury to a defense, like somebody from that kind of back six, but I think they'll be all right without Pablo Ruiz at the risk of sounding of this clip being played when they start to bottom out. Number 10, St. Louis City. They are who we thought we were in a very good way. I was worried about Nico Gioacchini not being back, but Sam Adeniran and AZ Jackson are playing second fiddle for João Clausen attack and is helping a lot. They still have room to add another attacker. Like I was saying on Monday, I think that they're going to at some point, maybe in the summer. And it's not an urgency because they're playing very well. They're third in shots in MLS and first in attack speed. They are who we thought they are. And it's just more of the same positivity for St. Louis City this year. Number 9, another team that's more of the same, Vancouver Whitecaps. No change in their preseason rankings here for me, at least. They have the least shots conceded in MLS. That's awesome. Like, their unit is very good. Sometimes they leave a little bit to be desired in attack, but that's okay because they're picking up points and they're looking to take that next step this year. It's ho-hum from last year, and it's kind of what we expected. And this sounds like a boring take and a boring way to describe Vancouver Whitecaps, but I promise this, I mean it in a good way. Ryan Gaul, Brian White, makes a lot of sense in attack. Fafa Picault started really well for this team. They could still use some help at wingbacks, plural, with Adekubi being injured or having been injured and having trouble with injuries since he joined the Vancouver Whitecaps. So again, this team is ho-hum. We'll see what they can add. They should have some room to add because I know that they had been looking for a right wing back all winter, and maybe they'll get one over the line over the next month. But again, this sounds like a boring take, but ho-hum is a good news for Vancouver Whitecaps. Next tier. Is this real? Minnesota United up 15 spots from their preseason rankings. And the New York Red Bulls number 7 up 8 spots. Let's start with Minnesota United. We talked about them on Monday, so I'm not going to do a ton here. But this team is legit to me. This is a lot of what they're doing is real. The drawbacks are if you're worried about Emmanuel Reynoso off the ball in defense, and if kind of the magic runs out for some of these younger players who are contributing to the attack. I think it's all real. I think whatever regression to the mean from some of the younger players is going to be replaced by a lot of production by Emmanuel Reynoso and a lot of production from Bogey Hlawangwe. Like, I rate Eric Ramsey as a coach. I like what Khalid Ahmad has done. So this team put out a new vision, and it's taking hold immediately. Again, I gave the stats on Monday, but things like field tilt and attack speed, passes per defensive action, all these things, they rank very highly in. And again, I think that this team is real, both in terms of underlying numbers, talent, and style. Number 7, New York Red Bulls. I talked kind of all winter about how good I thought Emil Forsberg was going to be and how he could make the difference to a team in which the underlying numbers really liked them last year, and they had a really good foundation, but were really bad in attack. And so far, so good. The Red Bulls are, again, like they needed that special player in attack. They still have a DP spot open, so maybe they add to it in the summer. Again, I'm still dying on the Dante Vanzeir hill, but this team has been very, very good to start the season. They haven't been the pressiest of pressing Red Bull teams, which, again, I think it has more to do with game states, but they're 19th in passes per defensive action, which is kind of shocking. They're 29th in attack speed, which is also very shocking, but that means that they're playing with the ball more. Field tilt is still at 10th in MLS. I expect that number to go up just based on how they play. But again, the Red Bulls, very impressed with them so far, and I do think that this is real. 2 more tiers to go. Second best tier. Outer circle contenders. We're going to stay in Los Angeles. 6 LAFC, 5 LA Galaxy. Look, maybe it's a little bit optimistic for LAFC, given they do have real problems with chance creation, but they're going to add to this attack. Denny Bouanga is going to be fine. This team has gotten signings right all over the place. The excellence that they've had over the past few years in reinventing themselves, I think that they're going to be okay. Again, it's been a slow start this season, but I'm not selling on what this team can be long-term this year. We'll see with the DP spot this summer. They're swinging big, and that could solve a lot of problems. I think that this team is going to get better as the season goes on. Number 5, LA Galaxy, up 13 spots. This is confirmation bias because I thought that they were going to be good. We needed to see it. But this team, I think, has been more unlucky than tragically bad at the end of games with defense. Their attack is awesome. Pansil fits perfect with Pooch. Dejan Joveljic looks really good. They're playing great soccer. They're being much more pragmatic in rest defense. Mickey Imane seems to be a brilliantly intelligent defender. Like, watch him next time you watch a Galaxy. I know it's really hard to get away from Pansil and Pooch and not watching the ball, but drift your eye a little bit to Mickey Imane. Watch his positioning. He does so well at creating space for Pansil and not taking the space, sliding in kind of as a third center back or somebody who can sweep up transitions before they start, but he can also get far. Like, I just really like what he's done to this team. And again, all the eyes should be going to Pooch and Pansil in this attack, but that's been a crucial addition to the team. Again, the defense needs to improve. Hopefully Jalen Neal will help with that when he comes back. But again, I'm a big believer in this LA Galaxy team. Top tier Apex contenders. Number 4, FC Cincinnati. Number 3, Atlanta United. 2, Inter Miami. And number 1, your Columbus Crew, reigning MLS Cup champs. Let's start with Cincy. I'm keeping them in this Apex contenders because I don't think that they've shown anything to take it away. Like, you could argue that they're in the next tier, but I think that they're more like these top 3 teams than the LA teams behind them. They're dealing with CONCACAF Champions Cup. They're dealing with replacing a lot of key players, Barreal, Brandon Vasquez, everything else. Like, they still have Lucho Acosta. They added Miles Robinson to an already really good defense. And I think that defense is what's going to keep them in the Shield race, even though they had fixture congestion. And that defense is what's going to help make them so dangerous in the playoffs, alongside the reigning MVP in Lucho Acosta and a very, very good center forward in Aaron Brupenza. So FC Cincinnati, I am really not worried about them. Number 3, Atlanta United. I went back and forth in preseason for my Shield pick. Orlando, Atlanta. I picked Orlando. And I'm really regretting that I didn't pick Atlanta, particularly after watching Atlanta kind of run Orlando off the pitch over this weekend. Again, Orlando has had CONCACAF Champions Cup, all the other excuses, but this isn't about them. This is about Atlanta. Atlanta starting 11 makes so much sense. They have great talent all over the pitch. Thiago Almada is an elite player in this league. Stian Gregerson looks like an elite center back in this league. The fullbacks get forward, and the defensive midfield pairing in Tristan Miyumba and Bartosz Slisz is looking as good in real life as it made sense in theory. So this has been awesome to see for Atlanta United. They have players that can win individually. Saba Lobojanice and John De Silva have shown that time and time again since they joined this summer. Yorgos Yakimakis is one of the best center forwards in the league. So you go up and down this team, they have in-prime talent. They have talent that makes sense with each other, and they don't have any holes and weaknesses. Goalkeeper's probably the closest thing to a weakness, and if Thiago Almada is sold. Those are the question marks, right? Like, that's not that many. Every team has questions. This team doesn't have many. Atlanta United, awesome start this season. This is real. This is not a mirage. Number 2, Inter Miami. They have Lionel Messi, Luis Suarez. I'm going to steal a line from my good friend Matt Doyle. He said something to the effect of, hey, remember when Suarez complained about his knee in preseason, looked a little bit slow in preseason games, and everybody thought he was washed? Well, guess what? He's not washed. This team has an unprecedented amount of talent, both in prime, young, veteran. There's so many things to say about Miami, and I feel like we say so many things about Miami, so I'm going to kind of get out of this at some point. But look, this team is rotating under Tata Martino, which is a very good sign. They have the depth. They have the young legs. They're looking to add again. They're going to bring in a right back, and they're trying to bring in another attacker. This is already just about the most talented team in MLS history. If Messi plays 22 games, honestly, if he's just back for the playoffs, right? Like, this team is going to be great. You know, last year they struggled without Messi. Now they have Suarez. Now they have Gressel. And Leo Campana is playing very well. It's an embarrassment of riches. Redondo has been really, really good. Maybe the Sergio Busquets comparisons made me a little lazy, where I didn't know that he could cover ground like this. That has been so crucial for this team, and that helps Busquets so much because you put Diego Gomez and Redondo in front of Busquets, so Busquets just gets to anchor and pass, and the two young kids run, and they cover the field. Ben Kremovsky hasn't played yet. He'll be back. He's going to be very useful. They're going to have so many options. This team is so very good. I struggled not to put them at 1, but I'm keeping them at 2 because you got to knock off the champs to take number 1. And so the Columbus Crew, for me, remain number 1. I underrated how crucial their playing style and dominance was going to be able to be in CONCACAF Champions Cup and challenge for the Shield. The game is easier for them. They dominate. Everything is on their terms all the time. They wiped the floor of the Red Bulls this weekend. Nobody plays against the Red Bulls on their own terms, except for the Columbus Crew. They're 7th in possession at 55%. That might even go up. But crucially, field tilt, they're 3rd. Shots conceded, they're 6th. Shots for themselves, they're 5th. This is the Crew, man. Like, they're a tsunami, and they're so deep. They have in-prime talent in attack. They in-prime talent everywhere on the field. They have a lot, like, I don't know if Christian Ramirez has started a game in MLS yet. And, like, he would be a borderline starting forward on a whole lot of other teams, right? Like, they have so many different players who can score goals in this attack. They have the cheat code that is Wilfred Nancy, who every single attacker he's had over the last few years has had a career best season, Montreal and Columbus. Like, it's not a coincidence. And that makes it so much easier. You can bring Jason Russell-Rowe into the first team. Matan goes from someone like we talked about last year that Caleb Porter moved on from. And then Wilfred Nancy was like, I want to keep him because I think he's very good. Every player has gotten better, and I think that's going to continue. Their development is very, very good from the second team up, from their bench up, and Wilfred Nancy trusts these players. And again, that is a cheat code in a salary cap league where the coach can get the most out of every player. So number 1, Columbus Crew. All right, that'll do it for Power Rankings. Always some good fun. Always some good fun to look back at where I was very wrong. So this is all good. The sun is setting, so the light here has gotten brighter and brighter, and reflecting off my big forehead and my Knicks shirt. So if you're still watching this outro after 2019 Power Rankings, you're the best. I appreciate you. Shout out, thank you all for coming back. We'll be back in a couple days, I'm sure.